space program, leaping forward into the cosmos. Since the dawn of Kerbal kind, we have looked to the sky and wondered what sublime mysteries lie hidden in the darkness, like jewels never beheld. These untold treasures may soon reveal themselves due to the efforts recently founded Kerbal Space.
Oh my! I think that might have been the only copy of the orientation film. Hold on! Slides, somewhere. Welcome to your first day running the Kerbal Space Program. This campus hosts the greatest ever gathering of astronomers, astronauts, and engineers. After years of focused effort, this collection of geniuses has created several very impressive buildings. We believe we have all the necessary pieces to take our first steps off the ground. The best way to advance our technologies further is to get up there and learn by doing. All we need now is somebody to show us how to put all these parts together. Well, we also need somebody to help us out with the flying. We need a lot of help, actually. That's why you're here. My name is Paige, by the way. If you need any hints, feel free to visit me over at the training center. Everything in there is well padded, so it's a great place to get up and running. Welcome aboard! Space is the place. So you want to get to space. Have you tried rockets? Rockets use fuel and engines to create thrust, which propels them forward. When a fuel tank is empty, it is dropped to stay as lightweight as possible, allowing the rocket to go even faster. These tanks, as well as other expendable parts of a rocket, are called stages. Different stages do different things. Often the first stage is very powerful, with just enough fuel to get the vehicle through the atmosphere. The second stage usually has a low-thrust engine that, while not as powerful, is more fuel efficient. After dropping the heavier first stage and leaving the atmosphere, the second stage engine pushes the much lighter second stage to orbital speed. On a flight to space, the final stage parachutes back down to the surface, ideally in one piece. Welcome to the launch pad. As you embark on your journey into rocketry, it's important to get all the crashing out of your system here in the simulator. It really cuts down on the awkward phone calls. Today, you'll be launching into the virtual skies over KSC, where you'll learn how to control a rocket. Let's learn how to rotate the flight camera. That way, you can see the launch from your favorite angle. Great! You can also zoom. Nice! Go ahead and pick your favorite view for this launch. Your rocket is ready for launch. Every good launch starts with a big green button and lots of fire. Most bad launches do too, actually. Looking good! Ascend to 1,000 meters, and then we'll learn some controls. Okay, you're a kilometer up. You can still crash, but you'll have more time to correct your course if you start pointing at the ground. Let's learn some rocket controls. When flying a rocket or a plane, we have specific terms for moving. Pitch tilts your rocket's nose up and nice pitch. Now pitch, let's move on. Yaw steers your rocket left and right. Try it now. Now yaw to the excellent. Now for the final control. Roll rotates your rocket clockwise and counterclockwise. Try it now. That's the basics of rocket flight. Feel free to experiment with the controls. We can move on when you're ready. So you want to get to space. It's time to make a rocket. A simple rocket requires 4 crucial components: a command module, fuel tank, engine, and parachute. Let's start by learning how to add a command module. A command module allows us to control our vessel. As long as there is at least 1 command module on board, our rocket will be operational. This rocket will use a command pod, which can be manned by a Kerbal and is located in the pods category. Or multiple Kerbals. It all depends on the crew capacity of the part. For this lesson, we're going to make a small rocket, so we need a... Great! It doesn't look like much, but it's a promising start. The next thing our rocket needs is a fuel tank. How about that one? Rocketry Weekly. Notice the part is once again attached to your cursor. If you place your... Now that's beginning to look like a rocket. Well, almost. We need an engine. Here at the KSP, to break free of Kerbin's soupy atmosphere, we want either a... Now let's add the sustainer engine to the fuel tank. Excellent! Our rocket is looking pretty great. Our 1 Kerbal rocket... Now, all we need to do is put it on top of the command. Congratulations! You've just built a rocket. Are you sure you haven't done this before? As you start to build rockets, you'll want to see your designs from other angles. Let's learn how to manipulate the camera inside the vehicle assembly building. First, let's rotate the camera. Nice! Now let's zoom the camera in. Great! Now let's pan the camera up and down. You can also focus your camera at a specific part. If you want to view your rocket from the top, front, or sides, switch to Blueprint. If you ever get lost in the VAB, you can always reset the camera. Nice! Now you can get at those hard-to-reach parts of your rocket. Your rocket's ready. Let's take it out for a little hop. Let's move this rocket to a launch pad. Welcome to the launch pad. Today you'll be flying straight up. Your rocket should do fine without any steering inputs, but if things get out of line somehow, feel free to intervene. cleared the launch tower and your flight is underway. Let's learn about staging. Rockets are on your right, you'll find the staging stack. Each stage's fuel supply is shown on a bar next to the stage. Your first stage is out of fuel, and all it is doing is slowing you down. To drop that weight, you're going to activate your next stage. That will activate a decoupler, which will drop your empty stage. It will also activate your next engine. Once you activate a stage, there's no going back. Ready? Hit go! Congratulations! You're nearly to space, and your next set of fuel tanks are empty. Now is a good time to activate the next stage to separate those tanks. Your capsule will now continue coasting up. All that's left to do is gaze back down at Kerbal and wonder if you remembered to lock your car. Nice work! Your capsule has a lot of momentum. If you're curious how high up you are, take a look at your altimeter. You're so high that you can see the curve of the horizon. Rocketry involves a lot of waiting between the cool explosions. Check out your altimeter. See how quickly those numbers are rising? Let's ride the rest of the way up and fast forward. You're about to start falling back down. Let's slow down and enjoy the view. Great job. You're now a master of time. Try not to use this new power for evil. What goes up must come down. Wind resistance will slow down your capsules. If you deploy your parachute too early, it'll be torn off. If you deploy it too late, you'll do some unplanned underground exploration. The sweet spot for Kerbal is okay. You're low enough to activate the hit go to pop your chute. Nice work. The parachute will trail your capsule for a bit without fully opening. Once you've slowed down enough, it'll open all the way by itself. Your parachute is now fully deployed and slowing the capsule to a safe velocity. Congratulations! If this were real, you'd find celebratory snacks in the VAB kit. Missing the ground. If you want to visit space for more than a couple of minutes, you'll need to get to orbit. An object is in orbit when it's moving sideways so quickly that even as gravity causes it to fall, it keeps missing the ground. As long as that object isn't slowed down by anything, it follows the same path every time it goes around the body it's orbiting, forever. If that object is a Kerbal, it is recommended that they bring lots of snacks. So since your goal is to move horizontally at a high speed, why not launch sideways? On Kerbal, the atmosphere is like a thick soup. You waste a lot of fuel trying to fly through it horizontally. By launching vertically, you cut through the thickest part of the atmosphere as quick as possible. Most orbital rockets begin tilting toward the horizon soon after they leave the launch pad. This maneuver, called a gravity turn, uses the planet's gravity to turn the ship and reduces the amount of fuel needed to achieve a stable orbit. When launching near the equator, your gravity turns should point toward the east, since your vehicle gets a free boost from the planet's rotation. Thanks, planet! Once a vehicle is moving quickly enough that its arc will take it above the atmosphere, it shuts down its engines and coasts to space. Once it nears the top of that arc, the vehicle needs to fire its engines a second time to keep itself from falling back down to the planet. Doing this turns that arc into a nice big circle. Congratulations! You've missed the ground. When you're making a rocket, it's often easiest to work top to bottom, tailoring each stage to carry the weight of everything above it. To give you a head start, I've already placed an upper stage, perfect for maneuvering in the vacuum of space. It could use another, more powerful stage to push it up to space from Kerbin's surface. Let's turn this vehicle into anytime we intend to drop an empty stage after using all of its fuel. Add that decoupler to the bottom of your... We need to attach a larger, more powerful lower stage to the bottom of your rocket. To keep things simple, I've whipped up a new... Out in the real world, this list would show all of your saved workspace. Now that the lower stage has been merged into your current workspace, you can see it next to the upper stage. So perfect! Merging is a very powerful tool. Anytime you want to reuse a particular booster, space rockets sometimes need an extra boost. In a rare case of rocket scientists naming something well, these additional rocket engines will start by attaching 4 radial decouplers that will eject the spent... Great! Now when you place a part on one side of your rocket, 3 more evenly spaced duplicates will... Perfect! Now you've got 4 radial decouplers exactly where they need to be. Let's attach those solid fuel boosters. Since you're still in 4x symmetry mode, simply attach this booster to one of the decouplers you just placed. That will... Great job! You've finished your orbital rocket. You can symmetrically place up to 8 parts... Before you launch a rocket, you need to plan the order of your staging of... The staging order begins at the bottom of the staging stack. You want your boosters and main engine to fire together for maximum thrust. The solid fuel boosters are currently in the second stage. If we don't change anything, the boosters will ignite. Your solid fuel boosters burn very hard and very fast, so they will run out of fuel first. Even though your main engine and boost now move all 4 radial decouplers from stage 4 to your new stage. All done. Your remaining stages are set up so that stage 4 will activate your orbital stage's engine. Stage 5 will detach the orbital stage's fuel tank when it's empty. And stage 6 will deploy your landing parachute. Thanks to you, this rocket is ready to fly. All right, we're ready to light this candle. In this flight, you're going all the way to orbit. I'll walk you through the process of launching, executing a gravity turn to get moving sideways, coasting to orbital altitude, and doing a final burn at the top of your arc to establish a stable orbit. Before we begin, let's talk about the nav ball. The nav ball shows your vehicle's orientation relative to the horizon. The blue half of the ball represents the sky, and the brown half represents the ground. The level indicator at the center shows your vehicle's orientation. When you turn, the ball turns. When you roll, the ball rolls. Assuming you want your rocket pointed at the sky, you'll want to see lots of blue on the nav ball. If you get confused, remember this rhyme. If the nav ball's brown, you're going down. At launch, you want all your engines at maximum thrust, which means you need to set your throttle at 100%. Your solid fuel boosters, you can see your main throttle here. Left shift gradually increases your throttle. Left control gradually decreases your throttle. Z and X instantly set your throttle to 100 or 0% respectively. Your fuel levels are visible within the staging stack. Right now, you can see that your main engine and 4 boosters are all topped off and ready to rumble. It's time to go. At the start, all you need to do is fly straight up. I'll check back in with you once those boosters are empty. Good luck! All right, the solid fuel. It's time to start your gravity turn. A gravity turn uses the pull of the planet's gravity to help. First, we need to get to 10,000 meters. You're going to yaw towards the east so that the target marker is in the center of the nav ball. Your vessel and nav ball should look like this example. Way to make Kerbin's gravity work for you. You're now on track to establish an orbit. Your current stage's fuel is empty. Let's drop it and activate your Great job! Your rocket is on its way to orbit. As you gain experience, you can make your gravity turns more efficient by starting to tilt your rocket soon after liftoff. Adjusting course with a series of... Right now, we're on a ballistic trajectory. If no further adjustments are made, your rocket will eventually fall back down to the ground. When planning and executing orbital maneuvers, you'll want to switch to map view, where you can see every part of your current trajectory. The blue arc passing through your vehicle is its current trajectory, the path your rocket will follow if you don't touch the controls anymore. Our goal is to make that arc into a... Let's break that down a little more. The top of your arc has a helpful tag in map view. We're paused at just before the apoapsis. We want to go fast. You're all lined up and ready to go. The next step is to go max throttle. It can take time for your arc to fully expand into an orbit. If you look closely at once your trajectory reaches all the way around the planet, you'll see another marker on your orbit. This is the periapsis, or PE, the lowest point in your orbit. It'll always live on the opposite side of your orbit from the apoapsis, or highest point. Here's the most important thing to remember about setting up an orbit above an atmosphere. Your periapsis must be higher than the atmosphere, or your rocket will start to slow down every time it dips into the upper atmosphere. On Kerbin, that means every part of your orbit must be higher than 70 kilometers. Keep your eye on your trajectory for now, and I'll tell you if your periapsis is safely out of the atmosphere. Okay, your orbit is fully out of the atmosphere. Cut the throttle. You did it! You're in orbit! This is when I'd usually tell you to look under your seat in the simulator, where you'd find a delicious celebratory treat. Sadly, since the vending machine in the astrodynamics lab broke down, it has gotten very difficult to hide. Orbits are weird. Remember your orbiting baseball? What if you wanted to make its orbit higher? Well, it's a baseball, so grab your bat and try to hit the ball to a higher orbit. Your first thought might be to try to deflect the ball upwards. Unfortunately, hitting the ball upward bends its orbit so that it hits the ground before it can return to you. What you need to do is hit the ball in the direction it's already moving, adding to its already high velocity. Now that you've sped the ball up, why isn't it flying any higher? It just keeps whizzing by at the same height it always did. That After all, I said that making it go faster would make it go higher. What gives? The ball is actually going higher, but it's going higher on the opposite side of the planet from where you're standing. You've raised its orbit, and you've learned the first lesson of orbital maneuvering. Your actions affect the opposite side of your orbit. Weird, huh? So your ball is moving faster, but it's still passing you at the same height. How do you get its orbit higher on this side of the planet? Now that you know how changes in velocity affect the other side of your orbit, you've got all you need. By adding velocity to the ball at the highest point in its orbit, you raise the lowest point in its orbit and make it circular again. An equatorial orbit is good, but if you want to travel beyond Kerbin, you will need to manipulate your orbit. Let's start with something simple, expanding an orbit. We do that by increasing the value of our apoapsis. Let's get a good view. Remember how you circularized your orbit by increasing your forward velocity? To raise your orbit, you'll just do more of the same. It's time to burn prograde. Now that we're pointed the right way, we can increase the throttle and watch our orbit expand. Ooh, cut the throttle. If you overdo it, you'll leave Kerbin nice. That maneuver raised our orbit on the other side of Kerbin, so we will enter high orbit there. Waiting to reach a specific point can be as eventful as watching the neon stripes on your rover dry. The paint job will be worth it. Like I said earlier, the highest point of our orbit is called the apoapsis. The lowest point of our orbit is known as the periapsis. By default, your camera is focused on your vessel. Scroll the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Double-click an object to center your camera on it. Click the middle mouse button to Excellent! You can time warp to any position on your trajectory by selecting a point on your vehicle's current path, and then selecting Time Warp to Point. Now you're way up in the sky, so high that if you circularize your orbit now, you'll be in high orbit. Wow, Kerbal Space Center looks so small from here. From command pods to space probe cores, a lot of critical rocket parts use electric charge. You'll want to design your rocket so it can generate and store EC. Most rocket engines generate electric charge while active, but we'll still need a way to keep our batteries full while coasting between maneuvers. Solar panels convert Kerbal's light into EC for our rockets. Small solar panels can just be placed, but large solar panels are delicate and must only be deployed once we're out of the atmosphere. I've equipped this rocket with 2 deployable solar panels. Here's a hand crank. Just kidding. There's a handy button that opens all of them with great. The solar panels are now extended. Light tracking solar panels only rotate on one axis, so we may need to reorient our ship to point them fully at the sun. Let's make sure the panels are getting direct sunlight by rolling our ship a little bit. Excellent. The solar panels are soaking up all of those sweet photons and giving our rocket some much-needed EC. You can see the status of any solar panel within the part manager in the electrical parts menu. You can either access the app. Getting EC is one thing, and storing it is another. Most command pods have a small battery, but many missions will call for additional EC storage. When we're traveling far from the sun or going to the dark side of a planet, more batteries means more peace of mind. Have you seen our R&D building? Our brilliant scientists are constantly developing new technologies. New technology means new parts to play with. Exciting, right? There is one teeny catch. Our scientists don't get out much. Outside of the launch pad, the majority of the KSC's explosions happen at R&D. That's where we come in. While our scientists are hard at work, it's up to us to give them all the data they crave. Who do you think pilots our probes? We earn science by completing missions and performing experiments. Feel free to visit Mission Control for the rundown on missions. I'm here to guide you through performing. Experiments are performed at research locations, a combination of Experiments are performed by special experiment parts. But Paige, you say, that's a lot to keep in mind. Is there an easy way to tell when I should perform an experiment? It's as easy as that. By the way, if you ever want to perform a specific experiment, or you want to see the status of an experiment, you can use the Part Action Manager. All of our experiments have been performed, and the research reports are available for us to read. Let's see what we've got. The research inventory shows all research reports that are on our vessel. You can see what we've learned, how much it's worth, and even transmit certain reports back to KSC. There are two types of research reports. Data and sample data reports can be transmitted back to KSC. Sample reports will need to be returned by recovering your vehicle on Kerbal. Fortunately, we just got a data report, so let's transmit it. Transmitting requires both electric charge, EC, and an antenna to communicate back to KSC. If you're ever planning a one-way mission for science, make sure you have both. At some point, the crew will run out of snacks. Did you know a Kerbal is 99.9% more likely to crash when hungry? That's when it's time to head back down to Kerbal, a planet known for its plentiful snack options. First, let's get a better view for this operation. Remember how we burned prograde to raise our orbit? To lower our orbit, we burn in the opposite direction, retrograde. SAS can really help us out. Now, flip retrograde, the opposite direction to our rocket's move. All right, the rocket is aligned to retrograde. Increase the throttle and burn until our trajectory is just past the atmosphere. As we decelerate, watch what's happening to our periapsis. Once it enters the atmosphere, this rocket is on a path back to the ground. Don't ease off the throttle yet, though. We're gonna keep burning until our trajectory intercepts the ground. This should give us a good idea. That's it. Let's stop our burn. Now that we're on a collision course with Kerbal, we need to turn that collision into something more Great! We're on our way down and our heat shield is exposed. Have you ever wondered what a marshmallow feels like when it catches on fire? Okay, we're about to descend very quickly. Our friend, the atmosphere, doesn't like speeding, and it'll do everything in its power to slow us down. This tendency gets downright violent at re-entry speeds. Traveling rapidly through the atmosphere compresses the air in front of the vessel, slowing us down but generating heat. Re-entry is all about slowing down and diverting heat. Right now, SAS is keeping the ship pointed retrograde, meaning the heat shield is facing forward. It's the only thing standing between our flammable crew and the white-hot blast furnace outside. Heat shields can take a beating, but they don't last forever. As it's cooked by the heat of re-entry, it sheds expendable layers of material called ablator. Once the ablator's all gone, your heat shield is as durable as a sheet of paper. Good thing you checked the durability before we took off, right? Let's watch the show. Whew, that was intense. I'd sweat if I had any pores. Now our velocity is low enough to safely deploy the parachute. Go ahead. Let's savor this moment and make sure that our parachute fully deploys. If you want, you can use time warp to savor it quickly. Thanks to the heroic efforts of our heat shield, our parachute has fully deployed and our crew will land in the correct number of pieces. Orbital transfers. As you know, the faster you go, the higher your orbit gets. If you get moving fast enough, your orbit may cross the orbit of some other object, like a moon or a planet. The closest celestial body to Kerbin is the Mun. If you're looking for somewhere else to fly a rocket, the Mun is a good choice. The real trick to getting there is timing your departure so that the Mun captures your vehicle at its highest point. If you mistime your departure, you may miss the Mun entirely, which creates a lot of paperwork. Let's assume you've left at the right time and the Mun is there to meet you. As your vessel approaches the Mun, it enters a zone in which the Mun's gravitational influence on your orbit is stronger than Kerbin's. This zone is called the Mun's sphere of influence. You've had to go very quickly to escape Kerbin's gravity, much too fast for the Mun's low gravity to capture you. If you don't slow down, your vehicle will speed past the Mun and be flung farther into space. Remember what I said about paperwork? Once you're in the Mun's gravity well, the best way to slow down is to fire your engines backwards until your trajectory becomes a nice, stable orbit. Now you're a moon of the Mun! Ha! Our rocket is in orbit over Kerbin and ready to fly. The mission today is to, drumroll please, intercept and orbit the Mun. To be captured by the Mun's gravity, our vessel must cross into the Mun's sphere of influence, or SOI. The zone, we're going to create a maneuver. Great! Now here's a new trick. We can select any object as a target in map view. Targeting gives us useful information and enables new tools. Once we've targeted a celestial body or other object in space, our maneuver will provide closest pass and plane angle information. This can be very helpful for meeting up with someone or something in space. Right now, our camera is following our vessel as it orbits Kerbin. We want to place this maneuver plan with two things in mind. First, the Mun is in motion. We can't aim our spacecraft where the Mun is right now. Second, remember how increasing velocity raises the opposite side of our orbit? Since we're placing this maneuver plan where we intend to start our burn, we should place it on the opposite. Placing a maneuver plan usually involves making a best guess, and then fiddling with the maneuver until you get an intercept. Fortunately, you've got a crack navigator with you today. By my calculations, we'll want to put our maneuver here. Excellent! We've just created a maneuver plan. While we could find out if our departure timing is correct by just picking a direction and maxing the throttle, a maneuver plan tells us in advance how much delta V we'll need, how long we'll need to burn, and in what direction our vessel will need to point during the maneuver. Grab and pull the arrows to plan a burn along that direction. This maneuver is pretty simple. We want to burn prograde and expand our orbit. Nice! That maneuver event towards the end of your trajectory is exactly what we're looking for. It tells that if we execute this plan, we'll intercept the Mun. If a maneuver looks right, but we're not getting... If we don't want to maneuver at all, we can delete the plan, either by right-clicking the gizmo and selecting delete, or through the burn timer. Maneuvers are invaluable when leaving Kerbin. Feel free to come back. We've got a maneuver plan that intercepts the Mun. Now we just need to execute that maneuver and fly to the Mun ourselves. Whenever we have a maneuver plan, a burn timer will appear. The timer shows you how much time is left until we need to execute the maneuver. I've paused the simulation for a moment, so this number won't count down quite yet. The timer also tells us how long we'll need to burn our engines at 100% throttle. Now let's take a look at the nav ball. A new marker has joined our old... Now your vehicle is properly oriented. And through the magic of SAS and more math than I'd like to admit, our vessel is properly oriented. While we could rely on our reflexes, departure burn, here we come. Great! We've exited just before our maneuver burn, and I've paused the simulation once more. After we select continue, okay, get ready to hit the throttle. Watch the burn timer. We want to stop our burn once it reaches 0. Everything's looking great. Cut the throttle. Great work! You've successfully executed a maneuver, and now we're on our way to the Mun. It's going to take a while to reach the Mun, but don't let the wait fool you. We're now moving faster than any Kerbal has ever flown before. When we enter the Mun's sphere of influence, we'll be going way too fast for the Mun's gravity to orbit the Mun. We'll need to burn retrograde once we're inside its SOI, or sphere of influence. This will slow us down. Let's start by time warping until we're within the Mun's sphere of influence. Farewell, Kerbin! We'll miss you! Did you notice that we've got a periapsis above the Mun, but no apoapsis? That's because we're going too... Remember the rule of orbital opposites. Because we want to lower your apoapsis, we'll need to place our maneuver plan at the periapsis. Let's get started. In order to reduce our apoapsis, we need to slow down by burning backwards, or retrograde. This is a little like deorbiting over Kerbin, but we're going to stop burning before our trajectory meets Mun dust. Maneuver plan set. Next up, let's make sure if the maneuver is right and we're pointed in the right direction, now we need to time warp to the right position. And we're on our way. Almost there. When the countdown reaches 0, throttle up to start your capture burn. Throttle up now. Keep burning until the burn timer reaches 0. Fantastic. That was some fancy flying. Looks to me like you're about ready to try this for real.